do so?
Yeah, now you can start.
Oh, now I have to watch my words, of course. But okay, welcome everybody in Eindhoven, actually. So you see at the back, we see the lab where I'm actually in at this moment, the EASY lab. It's the Eindhoven Artificial Intelligence Systems Institute. And we're very happy to share in the next 28 minutes or so what we're doing here in Eindhoven. And also the ICAI labs that we have started now. We've got a few, and of course we cannot highlight them all, but we will have a closer look on what we're doing within the MTech ICAI lab and also in the AIMM, the AIM. So that's on AI-enabled manufacture and maintenance. That's the other ICAI lab of one of the other ICAI labs, and you will hear more on detail about that one as well. Now, I'm also asked to give you a small introduction of what's happening, at least in Eindhoven, and what we are doing here in the Eindhoven Artificial Intelligence Systems Institute. So I prepare a few slides for you just to give you a little bit of background and also what motivated us to step into artificial intelligence, which actually started more or less half a year ago. 2 years ago. We call it actually AI for the real world. It's a focus area that we are looking what happens when this AI also touch the machines. We are kind of the classical machine builders here in the region, and therefore we tend to focus ourselves on that one. Maybe just a personal motivation, and also to hurt all the Dutch people a little bit. I start with this one. Maybe you recognize this one, and this may be a little bit painful for all the Dutch, but this is a little bit more than 10 years ago, when Arjen Robben found out that the shoe of Iker Casillas, the Spanish goalkeeper, was about 1 or 2 centimeters too long for us to score 1-0 in the World Cup final. And it ended up not so good for us. The Spanish won in the extra time. But it was not the first time. It's about the third time that we were in the final as a small country of the World Championship football, and we lost all 3 of them. So we thought a few years ago, maybe we should try another asset. So in 2010, no, that's not 2010, that's a little bit wrong. This is a couple of years ago, we sent our women. We have tall and strong women in the Netherlands, so let's send them. And they also got to the final of the World Cup football. It was in 2019, as you can see here, and we lost again. So that didn't really work out as well. This is a big frustration in the Netherlands, but we found a solution. And actually, by looking at the machines, this happened on the exact same day as the women lost the final. We won the final of the robot football team. And that was not the first time, but I think the 5th time already, not in a row, but so every now and then we got to be world champion on robot. And this is actually how we look at machines on areas where we as humans are not good enough. Ask the machines and let them help. And these machines even can beat the real football players in a couple of years from now. They're not there yet. But it's actually more the future, how we are looking on working with machines. Because you think from, okay, watching football machines is a little bit strange. I was at this final, which happened here in the Netherlands, with a couple of thousand people going berserk by looking at machines, which already indicates what this future relation with machines are. And this is going to be important, because that's what actually happened. This AI that used to be a cyber-only system with algorithms that do all kind of study and know exactly what kind of song that you want to hear. That's actually what at this moment is interfering with what machines are doing. So we also decided here in Eindhoven that we are going to mix this classical data science with some of our, in all modesty, strength of specialisms, at least here at the university and the region, of how this humans and ethics are involved in order in this human-machine interface, but also this machine building, the classical system engineering. And with that, we also see our mission that with this AI moving from the data owner to the data human machine, we could also add something to what's already happening in the Netherlands with our specialism to be significantly leverage the huge potential of this next generation AI, which we call AI for the real world. Now, just to highlight a little bit of what's happening here, and also where we hope to work together more with other universities and companies, we decided to focus on 3 application areas, being health, high-tech systems, and mobility. With our focus areas that you already see in this former figure of data algorithms, engineering systems, and humans and ethics. And in order to give body to this cooperation, we used the ICAI labs, but we also defined before we did that 5 different moonshots, one on each of the application area. and 2 on more the basic that account for all these application areas. That's also what we're going to highlight a little bit more here today, and also by the other 2 speakers. To be very short in this one, and we can make these slides available. The healthcare anywhere, which is actually meaning that wherever you are, you don't need a hospital, but the hospital also doesn't need any patients, and you're going to have more on these details and specifically on the NTIC ICAI lab later on. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this one. The other one is the NextGen industry, the industry we continue to go from industry 3.0 to 4.0, and the next will probably be 5.0. But we always say that we actually need industry 0.0 with 0 surprises and 0 repetitive jobs, and also 0 unexpected maintenance and all this kind of stuff. So that's the new kind of industry that we're together with all the companies here in the area are developing. We're working specifically on the mobility, and of course we make it responsible. A lot of people say we have to get rid of congestion, but that's not the biggest problem. We first and foremost will have to reduce traffic-related fatalities and injuries, but also get all the environmental impact of mobility down to 0, which is possible using AI. And there's a lot of projects here running on that as well. Now the other ones are the trustworthy data. That's of course the basic one that you need, and the thinking assistance, with the thinking assistance actually being one of the most strong ones and the most important ones. If this is really the future of robotics, are we going to have thinking assistants, or if these robots are going to be smarter than us, are we becoming the assistants of these thinking machines? That's another discussion that we of course also start having with a lot of companies, but also with other universities working together, because that's an important question for the future. Are we going to have this relation with machines and robotics in such a way that it will assist us and gives us the room to be even more human as we have been before? Or can this be a kind of dangerous situation? Now, there's a lot of examples on how this is going to work. It is a one-way street to artificial superintelligence, but yeah, the growth of machine intelligence will certainly continue. It will not stop at human intelligence level. And yes, there is such a thing as consciousness or character or soul or whatever we call it. And it might differentiate us in the end. It also might not. That's an almost religious discussion. But even if it would differentiate us, it will not help us to stay ahead of artificial intelligence. So that's the questions that we need. I'm going to skip this one, by the way, because that's for a longer story. Sorry for that one. I think the real danger is, and that's bottom line, and that's how we think there's no other option of working together with machines. A lot of people fear that there's a danger that these computers will begin to think like humans, but I think the bigger danger is that humans will begin to think like computers, because that, to my point of view, it's what's happening. Let's do all the coloring within the line stuff to machines, and let us do the coloring outside the lines is really the added values. Because if you just do repetitive jobs and simple things that we used to do, and we keep on doing that, there's no real added value in us. So this is a new combination that we would like to see in the future, and let these computers end up maybe first or second, and they will be stronger. But let us have the fun, just as this kid coming in third here also seems to have a little bit more fun than the other 2 kids. That's, to my point of view, the distribution for the future. It's just a little bit of a glimpse of what we're doing here in Eindhoven. It's concentrating on these machines. It's cooperating with other universities on this future of AI. We have this machine building kind of gene, high-tech systems kind of gene in us, and I think it will enable us, together with the entire industry and other universities, in order to come stronger also as a country. So that's important. But that's all introduction and some important messages. Let's go to what the real work that is being done. So the first, I want to introduce 2 persons actually that work together in the NTIC, the Eindhoven based Medical Technical Institute. Carmen, probably I'll give you first the word, and after you, we also hear Marcel van Veer, who also from the Technical University, but also works here in the hospital. Carmen, can I give you the word first?
Yes, but you also have to give me permission to share my screen, Carlo.
I will stop sharing at least.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, and I think I don't have any permissions to give. That's probably technology, but they'll probably take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah?
You can share
Oh,
your
it's my
screen.
You can share screen. thanks, support.
Thank you, Carlo, for this introduction, and also, of course, for the general introduction. Do you see my screen?
Yes, just not in presenters mode.
Okay, thank you. This should go now. Is it presenters mode now?
Not yet.
Yes, now it is, I guess. So indeed, we will present MTIC, the Eindhoven MedTech Innovation Center, and of course, in particular, the MTIC AI Lab. So look into the exact letters. It's not MTIC ICAI Lab, but it's MTIC AI Lab, as you can see. And I will present together with Marcel van Speer, who is the science coordinator at the Catharina Hospital, one of our partners. Well, the main ambition of MTIC is to get a fast track to clinical innovation. And I think this early afternoon in the introduction, it was already mentioned quite clear by Martin that the aim of ICAI labs is to get the societal impact by our labs. And I think that's essentially also the aim of MTIC. MTIC did evolve from long-term bilateral and trilateral collaborations in our region. Collaborations between the 5 partners who are now officially the MTIC partners. That's the medical Maxima Medical Center, that's the Catharina Hospital, that's Kempenhagen, Philips, and Eindhoven University of Technology. And the fact that we are close together is also scientifically proved that it's a real advantage into getting real successful collaboration. Of course, next to that, we all are world-class in some specific topics. And the topics that we are world-class in together are the application topics sleep, perinatal, and cardiovascular. So you see here also the combination of the industry partner, which is Philips, the clinical partners, I already mentioned the 3 hospitals and the university. So in all the projects, there's always a clinical partner, there's always a university, and there's always an industry, which is Philips. So how are we doing that? We're really looking into patient-centric innovation that we really bring into practice, but also to make a world-class ecosystem, including the data, is one of our aims. And of course, the main aim is also to attract top talent and educate top talent. So we officially started in 2018, and we went from a number of programs into an enriched ecosystem on these topics, but also we are playing a role now in a national eco landscape, include not only with the ICAI labs, but also with a collaboration with Health Hawaii, which we come back on. So I think we are the first, as far as I know, the first ICAI lab that combines both industry partners and clinical partners. And MTIC, is to give you a little bit, the total MTIC collaboration is more than 100 PhDs, and there's a big and an increasing part is working on AI. The main topics are to increase the patient quality of life by monitoring and diagnosis, and to optimize treatment and strategies for them. And we're using for that data-driven data-driven models and data-driven approaches. Clinical decision-making on uncertainty is an important topic. And of course, I already mentioned the role of data. Some of the technologies, of course, imaging, I'm not going to read everything on the screen, but you can read it yourself. Patient monitoring and clinical decision supports are really important. And to give you a little bit idea about what we're actually doing, I hand over the voice to Marcel, and I will keep pushing the screen, Marcel, so you can just take over.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So this is, well, probably what people think about what AI or healthcare will look like in future. And of course, data will mean quite a lot, of course, in giving context, meaning, and insight into data. But there is a different thing below that. And if you want to click one time, the data itself is also a challenge. And I will come back to that later on. So here are 2 examples of what kind of algorithms are useful in the clinical practice. And the first one is the dermatologist. That algorithms can determine whether a lesion on your skin is benign or malignant. And the algorithm can do it as good as the dermatologist as well. And the other thing is that on a normal electrocardiogram, that's what you see on the screen on the left, it's EKG, it's normal rhythm. Algorithms are capable of showing which patients are going to have a rhythm disorder. And if you can click one time. Yes, thank you. That's say the atrial fibrillation. And cardiologists are, of course, capable of diagnosing that people have that, but they're not capable of developing or to distinguish the patients that develop this kind of rhythm disorders. And that one of the, of course, the prerequisites is that you have data, but the other thing is that you also have the resources to do so. And one of our big issues that we collaborate within MTech is that we are manufacturing or developing the health data portal. And there are several things in there. There are 3 parts. One part is the data itself. It's the institutions that provide the data. That's on the left. And then we have a legal entity, the third trusted party, the TTP, that covers the legal part that everything that you do with the data is also, of course, permitted. And then the most important thing for the researchers and the developers is this health data portal where they can look for the data, what kind of data is available, and also a workspace where eventually the development can eventually be done. And this is more or less, say, the regional infrastructure, and that closely is relating to the health right that Carmen just mentioned. It's a national infrastructure that we're building upon. So if you, so these red things, that's a thing that I want to stress a little bit more, because next slide, please, is the data. Of course, that's one of the boundary conditions of any AI algorithm, and then you have data, data, and data. And if you do next slide, there's more to data in itself. Of course, the data needs to be available, accessible, and of course you can read it. And if you do the next slide, the regulations is also, of course, one of the most important things, especially because it's health data. So the check for the legal basis is also one of the parts in the health data portal. And if you go to the next one, you might think that because we have our health electronic health records, it's really easy to get access to this data, and that's then transferred to the warehouse. But of course, it's not so easy, because if you have our electronic health record system, the actual thing is that you only have viewers to the raw data that you actually want to need and build upon if you want to develop these kind of algorithms. So there's a big challenge to do so. And if you click once more, then if you look at the timeline, next one, please, then you'll see where we are. We're still in the late 80s in terms of, say, data structure, but we're still working on it. Next slide. In parallel to the development of the architecture of this health data platform is that we want to go towards the data fabric, where the modalities are filled with the raw data from the systems, and they're cleared and they're searchable. And at the moment, there are already workplaces within our hospital to develop these kind of stuff. And algorithms, but there are still some hurdles to be taken. And next slide, please. So the thing is that of course we're not there yet, but there's big steps that we're making, especially with the health data portal, but also in the implementation of broad consent. That's so that you ask every patient that his or her data can be used for research. And that will eventually end up with better data, and that will deliver better knowledge and eventually better care. So the next slide, please. That's probably eventually where we want to end up with this kind of image that there's a lot of more data, and that healthcare can be definitely improved with AI. Thank you, at least, for this really fast and talk.
Yeah, thank you very much, and also for being on time, because we in Brabant have the word of always being 15 minutes too late, but we only made it with 1 minute. So thank you very much for that. Okay, people are interested. Of course, there's much more detail to share about. Maybe it's also a tip that please follow us also on LinkedIn or on Twitter or whatever, because we have regularly, as we call it, easy cafes. And when they go live, you have free beer and bitterball afterwards, but you get a lot of pitches, as long as we have to do it is also very interesting. A lot of pictures of all what the researchers are doing, and discussion Q&A afterwards, and they might also be very interesting for you. So that's just a tip in between. Let's go quickly to the last one, and yeah, thanks very much, Carmen and Marcel. We go to Shane. Shane, are you in?
I'm here, and I'm ready to go.
And you're ready to go to talk about the AI-enabled manufacturing maintenance. Shane.
Very good. Thanks very much, Carlo. So AI-enabled manufacturing and maintenance is one of our ICAI labs, indeed, at the TU in Eindhoven. Just to get the mouse to click. It's a bit slow. So we're part of the EASY Institute. We've got 4 labs within our ICAI infrastructure at the TU. AIM is one of them. We've got a number of others. You've just heard about MTech. But we also have another one which is focused on robotics, and we have another one which is focused on mobility. So if you're interested in any of these topics, please contact us. Okay, what does the AIM Lab set out to do? Well, we have a number of different goals, but one of them is, of course, is to share what is the state of art of AI with the wider community of industries and companies around the Eindhoven region, around the Brainport region. And from that, then to build a community which is going to explore AI research. And often we see that we end up placing student projects because AI is still new for many companies, and it helps them to get used to it, to get a feel for what AI can do for them. And then hopefully, and often is happening, has already been happening, we participate in calls with those companies and we start new projects. And we're involved with a number of companies at the moment on new AI related calls, particularly looking at Horizon Europe, which is a new and hot topic for us all, but also looking at NYO calls and other calls that are around. And of course, we're also looking at what can we take from that? What can we take from our research, and how can we use that again in our education? Can we use it to turn our students into AI competent, AI qualified students? And we have a goal to create 25% of all of our TU students within a few years, that they're all very comfortable and very well able to work with AI. So these are the goals for the AIM Lab. It's all built on, to start with, the industry partners. And all of these industry partners that I'm showing you here, these are the 4 in the lab: Nexperia, KMWE, Marel, and Lely. These are all high-tech companies. And the reason I think that they're in this lab is because high-tech is a wonderful platform. It's a great starting point. Now the question is, what can AI do to add value in these companies? So we're taking their existing high tech and we're looking at situations. How can we use AI to either reduce costs or improve performance or make their products more attractive to their customers? So none of this happens without a team. And as you can see here, we have an enormous team. This is a team that's made out of a mix of people from industry and also from the TU. These are different researchers from several different departments. The AIM Lab started about a year ago, but before the AIM Lab was there, we already had a community, and we built on that with our industry relationships to create this new lab. And it's kind of exciting. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of very, very cool, very interesting people in this group, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. But without this, we wouldn't have an AIM Lab without these people. These are some of the things we've been doing. We've been running workshops. So Carlo mentioned earlier the Thinking Assistant. It's one of the moonshots we have in EASY. We did a very successful workshop, not just for the 4 companies that we have. Great that they're there, but we also had many other companies from the region came and join us in December, and it's led to several follow-up discussions and hopefully research projects coming from that. We've also done one recently on dynamic planning. We have another one coming up in May on predictive maintenance. And we have other topics that we've identified for later this year that we want to do in workshops. So typically these are a mix of researchers, but also industry people talking. So this isn't just talking about what the research can deliver, it's also talking about, from experience, what has research in the past delivered. So we're trying to inspire people with these. This is the last workshop we did, just some of the talks we had. In this case was about digital twins, but it was really about improving the performance of 2 companies. One of them was KMWE, and the other one was Nexperia. And I love this quote from Jeanette. Jeanette is one of our industry members, but she also works a day a week for the TU. And she said, collaboration as one of the engines driving innovation. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to collaborate. We're trying to be an engine that drives innovation. And that's our goal within this lab. One of the things I'm very proud of that we've done as a group between researchers and industry people is we've looked at what's coming, not just what's coming down the road from AI, but how will AI impact industry? And we know that there's two really important themes. One is we know that industry is going to be digitized. We know there's going to be an enormous amount of data. But we also know that we need to be more sustainable. We need to be more green. And from that, we identified 5 different components, looking at multiple different sources, and we've discussed these. And we came up with this, which I think is lovely. It shows that we're now looking at Industry 4.0. We're looking down the tunnel. We're looking at Industry 5.0, as Carlo mentioned. And that's something that's very exciting. So we're not just looking at automation. We're not just looking at the systems engineering background that we have. We're also looking at how can AI help with planning, and how can AI help with interaction between systems. And we're also looking even further, and we're saying, what can AI do that can return the sovereignty of Europe and the sovereignty of the Netherlands in many ways in supply chains? How can we reduce the environmental impact of supply chains? We've seen that in our COVID days, but we really need to think again about how we organize ourselves. We also want to make it a world where communities and workers are not just delivering something to a company, but we share something together. We want to use AI for that. And of course, what's really important, what's going to significantly separate successful countries and successful areas from others is how well do you innovate? And that's the last area we think AI will help with in this Industry 5.0. So can we take the efficiencies of scale and reduce them down to a batch size of 1? Can we create really fast turnaround times where we introduce new technologies and new ideas? That's it. We have a website. The link is at the top of my slide. If anyone wants to talk to me or to talk to the people that I showed earlier in our community or anyone else at EASY, please contact us. We're really happy to talk to you. We're looking for cooperations with companies and also with other research institutes across the Netherlands and even further. That's my pitch and story. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Shane. So I think we made it exactly in a half an hour. So also thanks to the presenters. More information you can also see in the comments, links to our websites. And next on the program, you can experience after the breakout session a video from Buster Franken about the startup Fruit Punch. And of course, later on, we also have the virtual drinks. And hopefully later this year, we also have the physical drinks here in our lab when we have the easy cafes and start them up again. Hope to see you all back then. Thanks for your attention for this half an hour, and let's cooperate in the future. Thank you very much. Back to, I think, the host. Oh, it's still 14. Now it's exactly half an hour. That's so good.
We'll be sent back on automatically.
No Brabants kwartiertje.
I think the breakout rooms will stay open for another 5 minutes, indeed.
Oh.
So if
Okay,
there
cool.
are questions, you have the time for 5 minutes. If there are none, we can just leave the breakout room.
Okay, there will be a smart movie available about one of our startups, Fruit Punch, which is actually also a community of AI, and they already growing around the world. So that's another nice thing to join. Are there any questions? Let's see. If not, maybe after such an intense day, people need a little bit room to breathe a little bit. Okay, we'll leave it with that then. Thank you very much. Have a look at the building that when you're at the university, you know where to find it. It's on the side of the city. And we've got, I think, in all modesty, regularly good coffee. So please come and have one.